We're going to begin the next phase of machining our new lead screw nut. This guy right here that you've been seeing me work on. So what we're going to do, we'll be using the forge awl to hold this piece and then turn it. So what I decided to do, I'm going to go ahead and put a center in the end of it there, and then that way we can just use the center to indicate this in the forge awl chuck. And to put the center in, I'm using the KBC mill, got her set up, and just using our DRO to find the center there and just drill a small center hole. That'll make indicating in the forge awl pretty easy task. We got a stop set there so that doing the two repetitively would be really simple. Back to the forge awl chuck we go so we can get these guys turned. We're going to put them in here just like this. I've got some pads that I made, soft jaw pads we're going to use, but we're just going to go ahead and get the jaws closed up very gently to hold it. And we want to measure, make sure we got enough stick out here. I'm going to have to come out a little more. We're just going to go to 3 inches. Just like that. So these are going to be our soft jaw pads. I just made these, I cut them. This is just some brass flat bar. I've had some old parts from years ago, and we saved them all when we replaced them, and I use them for stuff like this. So I cut up a couple of them in half and milled them so that they would fit across the 1 3/4 wide bar there. So this will help us from marring up the workpiece with the jaws, and they will hold nice and square as well. So we'll get one there. Go ahead and get one on the side here. Let's see. Let's do it like that. Yep, that'll work out good right there. Hold it nice and square and flat. And that's going to give me enough room to get in here and do my turn. And it's just over 2 5/8, our shoulder length there. So we'll use our center between center trick again. So your dead centers have a center that they were held whenever they were ground. So we'll stick that in there. I'm just going to run this up. And you don't have to have the tailstock very tight for this. If you're way off center, it does try to push it. So I just leave the tailstock loose so that it can just kind of push it back lightly. So just enough resistance that this can't slide back out of the way. There we go. All right, so about 50 thousandths. Start with our high. Make sure those are snug. Loosen the low, tighten the high. One thousandths. That's within a half a thousandths. It's 1 1/2. So just check all the jaws, make sure you're tight. That one felt a little loose. Yep. All right. So we know the center's true. We'll go ahead and we'll put the indicator on the side of the block and run down the length of it to make sure that it is straight in line with the axis. Doesn't really matter where this is at as long as it just doesn't move. So we'll put it right there. Let's see. All right, so we've got 0.5 thousandths out of square. So nothing wrong with that at all. And what we'll do is come on off. Tailstock's in the way. We'll come over here to this side and do the same thing. That side's off a little bit. Tell you what, let's go to the other side. So since this one's off, we'll go ahead and get this one bumped in. That bit of length right there is about 2 thousandths, so it's really not enough to kill the job in any way. But we'll see if we can improve it slightly. Got it within 1 thousandths there. There you go. And we got that straight. Come back and check the other side, make sure we didn't move it. It's still good. So now what we'll need to do is go ahead and put the center back in here again. We got it right there. I'm gonna let it run right where it's at because no reason to check it anymore. We're gonna be good enough where we're running. It'd help if I put it in a gear. That's gonna work. Let's get her turned. Okay, let's get started on this. I'm using a 1/2 inch shank brazed on tool. This is one of my Micro 100 tools. I think that's gonna work out pretty good for getting this job done. We've already got our shoulder distance set. We're using our DRO to help get this one done. Let me make sure we got our feed set. We don't. We need to go over to R, and that's gonna give us our 11th thou feed rate right there. Take a couple hundred at a time here and see how it handles it. Got that zero approach on. You might be able to hear it. That seemed to work pretty good. We'll just keep doing that, having a little fun. Get a little measurement, see where we're at. We're taking this down to 1 inch, by the way, so we got 219 thousandths there and about. So let's leave us about 30 thousandths to finish it. So we'll just take another 190. That'll be the end of our rough cuts. See where we're at on our sizing here. Thirty thousandths. Nice and straight, 30 thousandths. All right, we're gonna open her up. We're gonna run 1200 RPM and make some finish passes. I don't feel any vibration or anything. I think we're gonna be good there. Slow down to a 4th thou feed rate. That looks good. So it's definitely some type of bronze alloy. I don't know what it is. As I said before, this is the piece of material that my dad had for years that I don't know. I don't even know what he used to make what parts he made out of it, but we've had it. It looks like some pretty good stuff. All right, I'm just going to kind of sneak up on this. This is going to be a precision fit that I'm going to be aiming for. 21, 21. All right, this should be our finished cut. Shooting for 1/1000th over 1 inch. And looks like I hit 8/10 on the, according to the mic, 8/10. Not too bad, I don't think. I think that's going to be good right there. I want to check my shoulder distance here and see where I ended up. I'm looking for 2.648. Well, I got it that time, 2.648. 47.5. I think that's going to work. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pull this one out. I've got the second one here. I'm gonna go ahead and machine it too. We do it off camera, maybe a couple close-up shots, but I'm gonna get this one done. And then once we're through with this lathe work here, that's when we're gonna move on to the mill for our final op, which is rounding off the corners there. To keep it kind of, the jaws where they're at, I'm gonna come down where they just touch. Just like that. So move that block out, loosen that one up, and there we are. We are almost there. Okay, we have moved over to the milling machine. We're set up in our 6-inch spacer here. We've already got it indicated, but I wanted to show you. So what we've done is we swept across the back side here. I want to try to get the side of the block here in line with our tapped hole, our Acme hole. And because of the way this material is made, it's not completely square and flat. So what we've done is we averaged it across the two ends. So we've got the dial set about to 0 there. And if we move down to this side here, you know, it comes up and we're within about 1/1000th of an inch being straight there across that. But you can see how it kind of dips down in the middle. And if you do that across all the sides, you're going to see about the same kind of movement. So that is indicator ready to go. We've got our chuck tight. This is what we're going to be using to cut our radius, 4-flute corner rounding end mill. And this is a 3/4 radius to match our 1.5 inch width there on the block. So that should work pretty good to get that done. We'll go ahead and get this set up in a collet and get started on our milling. What I like to do with these corner rounding end mills is try to get a touch off established on both the bottom and in this area right there. So I'll go ahead and come over here. Let's see here. I'm going to just touch the material. And what I'm going to do is just zero out my DRO here to a 0 point, and then we can work our way in for like a finished cut, and that should line up right there on that edge. That looks pretty good. We are just touching the side of it there. Now we'll do the same thing with our Z-axis, come up to touch this area right here. I'm just watching it. I can see the cut in between the flutes there and just trying to get it to match almost to the end of the cutter. We're just about there. I'm going to call that. I'm going to call that it there. And I'm going to zero out the knee. I don't have a readout on our Z axis though, but I'm just going to use this. We're just going to use our Y axis to come in and make a few cuts. We're not going to cut all that at one time. Let's make a pass and see what it does. That's going to be about 150 thousandths off this first cut here. I just want to feel the machine out, see how it does. I've never really particularly liked using corner rounding because it sounds like a lot of beating and banging. May have to kick the speed up. So far, it seems to be doing pretty good with that 150 thou end feed there.
Bring it in, another cut. Now we're starting to get into it.
Another 100 thousandths. Really starting to hammer on it now. Another 50 thousandths end feed there. Remember, the more every time you go in, you're cutting more and more further across that radius. So we still got 100,000ths to go. And we're just kind of making progressive cuts to finish out our shape there. I'm going to try this in the slow speed in the high range, which is 450 RPM. And see how it reacts with that higher RPM there. It should do okay. All right, after this pass here, that's going to leave us 10,000ths on Y, and then we'll have another 10,000ths on our Z there to kind of finish it out. All right, that looks pretty good. It's actually got a pretty nice finish on there too. It is an older used cutter, but it still did a pretty good job. And we could probably fudge the Z a little bit, and I mean maybe a couple thousandths, but I just don't think it's worth trying to go in there, and then it might start cutting into that. So we're gonna leave it right where it's at. I think our elevation and our Y-axis offsets worked pretty good to leave it where it's at. I can tell that it's, you know, that concave, it's a little bit closer. You can feel that edge right on that corner there, but not a big deal. This is mainly just being shaped for, I would say, cosmetic. It doesn't even need to be rounded off, but of course we're trying to do it to kind of match the profile of the original part. And this original piece was actually cast and then machined. But you can see ours is already going to be a little prettier than what they did, but this isn't something that's ever seen. It just needs to be functional. But we're going to try to make a good looking part there at the same time. What we'll do, we can just bring our Y-axis out, but loosen up the spacer here. And I've got it set to 0 on the front, so we're just going to rotate it exactly 180 degrees to do the other side. Just like that right there, and then lock her back in. And all we got to do is just, let's see, there's 2 locks on this one here, so bring our Y out and come back down and start over again. And hopefully that'll match up. Yeah, I probably got a little bit of room there. Just looking at it, I probably got a little bit of room on Z to clean this up a little bit further, but it's so close. I just don't know if it's worth it. I'm gonna drop it down 10 like I did. Other way. Let's just come on in until we touch. I believe it was 450. $550, that's what it was. And we're gonna do this other side. All right, well, it's time to take this one out. I think that went pretty good. I was hoping it's not going to try to mar up the surface there, but I think that's fine. You can see where it chucked it, but it's not, it didn't. There's one little spot right there. There must have been a chip in there that I didn't see. But other than that, it looks fine. Just do some deburring on that. We'll do some Scotch-Brite just to kind of brighten up those surfaces a little bit, and that's going to work good right there. That is just about finished up, so just one more to do. That one turned out even nicer than the first time. So when we got one more side to cut, we'll go ahead and rotate it 180. Lock her in and we are ready to go. All right, this one's ready to come out of here. Let's see how it looks. They got that same mark, so there's something on one of those jaws that's causing one little hiccup right in there, but that's not a big deal. The rest of it's just touch marks there. Ain't hurt it one bit. Well, we're just about through with our new Acme nuts there. The only thing left to do really is just to kind of deburr it, give it a little polish. I do not have a buffer or polisher or any kind of grinder set up at the new shop yet. Should be very soon because I've got a couple of them on order. They're just not here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these back to the home shop. I've got my buffer there. And I want to give it sort of like a little polish on the Scotch-Brite wheel at the house. And then after that's done, these will be ready to go. Obviously, we're only going to be using one of them to fit in our compound. So this was really the last piece of the puzzle to begin our rebuild. So after we get these cleaned up, I'm going to bring you guys back and we're going to start getting that whole compound put back together. I am ready to see this back together and ready to get it back onto the American pacemaker.